Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 50th anniversary celebration of Common Cause. I'm Bob Phillips, Executive Director of Common Cause North Carolina, and we have a fun-filled hour ahead. We hope to educate, to inspire, and to inform you over the next 60 minutes. And before we really get into the program, I guess a few things we'll be certainly talking about over the next hour will be our accomplishments that we're very proud of, things that we're working on right now, not only in this election season, but what's ahead. Also, we'll highlight some of the things that we are doing that we're very proud about. Our HBCU, that's the Historic Black College and University outreach we do. And then the latest edition of our foray into the great state of Mecklenburg, which is actually Charlotte, for those of you who do not know. That's my old hometown, by the way. We'll be introducing you to a few board members, and we'll also have a very, very special surprise at the end. And no, I'm not talking about this supposed pie in the face that maybe you've heard about. This is much, much better than anything like that. And really, I don't think that's going to happen, actually. So before we again start talking about our accomplishments and a little bit of the work that we do, and again, celebrating 50 years of Common Cause, I really want to go back to when I began at Common Cause North Carolina, which was February 2001. In the 19 years, almost 20 years, February 2021, we've seen a tremendous growth. In fact, when I walked through the doors in February 2001, it was just me, no one else, what we call a one-man bandit. And I will confess to you, it was frustrating at times. I mean, it just seemed like an enormous amount of very important work that we had to do, and it was just me. And fortunately, we have grown quite a bit over the 19 years that I've been with Common Cause, and I'm very proud of that growth. And it's important to me to introduce to you the starting lineup of Common Cause North Carolina. And wait a minute, what am I hearing? Well, that's the introductions for some of you who may know of the Chicago Bulls. So let's get right to it. Introducing Jane Penske, who has been with me for 12 fun-filled years. Jane is the director of the Coalition for Lobbying and Government Reform, and something that we kind of formed in 2005, and she's shifted over to the In Gerrymandering Now campaign. And good evening there, Jane, to you. Next, Vashtai Hinton, one of the most passionate people that I've ever had the pleasure to work with. Vashtai heads up there she is waving. Vashtai heads up our work in the triad at our historic black colleges and universities, and I'll add as a proud graduate of North Carolina A&T. Aggie Pride, right, Vashtai? Aggie Pride. Working with her is Michael Spencer, who is somewhat new to Common Cause. He is heading up our HBCU project overall, but also does work in the HBCU campuses, primarily in the Triangle area. Then what I would say is the finest digital communicator, storyteller, communications director in the state, certainly in the nonprofit progressive world, Brian Warner. Brian Warner worked many years at the North Carolina Center for Voter Education, and we were fortunate to have his services with us. Joining him from the center is Brent Lawrence, who is the guy at Common Cause that makes the trains run on time. Brent, I don't know if you've popped up, at least I don't see you on my screen, but I'm sure you are there. Following Brent, Cameron Bynum from Rutherfordton, North Carolina. She is our development coordinator. There she is. Hey there, Cameron. And last but not least, let me go to my grid so I can see everybody here in my gallery view. There we go. I mentioned that our newest hire from is someone working full-time as an organizer in Charlotte, Trey Gibson. Trey, there you are. I see you. There she is. Yes, Trey's doing fine work. And Trey, we're going to come to you later in this program so you can talk a little bit more about what you're doing in the Queen City. So Trey, if you didn't know that, you have a little bit of time to prepare for that. Anyway, folks, I'm looking at our starting lineup of Common Cause North Carolina. And I don't know, didn't we say, Cameron, are we gonna do a song for everybody here real quick, or was it a song that you had in mind for us to do? No, I don't. Cameron, you don't seem to be saying that.
No, not from me.
Okay, I think we do have a message though, and I think I can get this right. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you all.
Thank you, donors.
Thank you all the donors.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you so much.
Folks, we needed to rehearse that a little better. We were supposed to, in unison, say thank you, donors, but hey, that's okay. You know, we're all right. It's late for us. Listen, it's wonderful to see everybody that I work with. We've been working virtually since March 13th, by the way, and I really haven't laid eyes on anyone face to face since that time. So we do have a meeting like this every morning, however. Now that you've met the Common Cause North Carolina team, we want to see you all. So if folks who've joined us for this party, if you can begin turning on your cameras, and that would be wonderful. I'm seeing some names and some people here. That's great. One thing I should have maybe given a forewarning of, we want to do a toast to Common Cause North Carolina before we really get into the program. So if you have your favorite drink on hand, that's great. And again, I'm seeing names. It's great. People that I know. Yes, some folks are turning on their cameras. Wonderful, wonderful. Wow, great. Great to see so many people that are our good friends of Common Cause North Carolina. Again, it's a wonderful evening, and we appreciate very much you all being a part of this. Everybody's popping in here. That's great. I kind of am looking too for my cue to my trusty communications guy. If we want to raise our toast, is it too early to begin, or are people still kind of populating?
We'll have a few more guests to see.
Okay. Well, listen, I hope that all of you all are staying safe in these times. I'm actually sheltering currently in the beautiful western part of our state. The North Carolina mountains have the benefit of being able to come here and actually still work remote. And I know you all, it's our world, and I think it's going to be our world for a good long time, but it's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and great supporters here. Looking over here, I guess we now have 2 screens here. Yes, we do. Wow. Wonderful. I don't know, Brian, do you think this is good too? Are we still populating people, still letting people in the door?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, and again, I apologize. We didn't tell everybody, but we do want to raise a toast to ourselves. And I happen to have actually a little red wine here. It's a California Red. The Path is what it's called, one of my favorite brands. And what we want to basically say is, and I'm not great at toast, so I'll do my best here, but is to say, you know, here's to the great work that Common Cause has been able to do the last 50 years, not only in North Carolina, but across the country. A toast to the wonderful people. You've met some of them in our North Carolina chapter, but many, many wonderful people across the country and at the national office who've done this great work to improve our democracy. And last but not least, a toast to you, the very people who have made our work possible in North Carolina. And again, to those wonderful supporters of chapters across the country, and certainly to National Common Cause. As you can see, I have in my little studio here some of the signs, and of course, holding power accountable. That's one of our big slogans. So 50 years to Common Cause holding power accountable, and may we have many, many more years to improve democracy for everyone. I'm going to take a little sip here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, exactly. Rodney, thank you for saying cheers. I meant to say that. Cheers to all of us. Well, now this is through the magic of the virtual world and the technology here at play. We're going to get our program going here shortly. We're kind of changing your status here so you all can watch. And I do want to kind of mention a couple things. Again, some of you who have been on these virtual Zoom calls before, at the bottom of your screen, there is a chat box, and a great place for you to tell us who you are, when you joined Common Cause, what it is or where you're from, and what your issue that you care most about. Wow, I'm seeing so many great folks here. In fact, Jerry Hancock is, I'm seeing his face there. He was there at the beginning of Common Cause North Carolina. Jerry, thank you so much for joining the call. Another thing is we have a Q&A box, sort of on the right, if you see on the box, the bottom of your screen. And that's a great place right now for you to put any questions that you want. It's not stump the host, but no, questions that you seriously have, we will do our best to answer during the hour. We're going to have a little bit of a portion of the program actually to answer questions, but I can tell you that we'll also take any question that we didn't get a chance to get to during the next hour and also put it online. So we'll be able to do that as well. Certainly, when I think about the time that I've been at Common Cause, I'm just so grateful, really, to have had this opportunity to be at Common Cause, and the 20 years have, as I mentioned, starting in February 2001, have gone by in a flash. But as you can see on the screen, we're talking about a 50-year existence of Common Cause. So let's go back to 1970. Wow. Got to have a little bit of mood music for the time. Some of you may actually know who that band is. But 1970, as you've learned, most of the people that I work with weren't even born in that year, but I'm old enough to remember those days. The hippie movement was in full bloom. What's your bag? It's a gas. And of course, the ever popular, can you dig it? Those were a few phrases of the day, and I'll deny ever saying them. The top TV shows, Laugh-In, The Flip Wilson Show, Mod Squad, popular movies, MASH, Patton, Woodstock, bands of the day, The Beatles, Crosby, Stills, Nash, Three Dog Night. All of these bands and more were popular during that time. And if anyone can actually identify the name of the band and the song playing, you might just get a chance to win this free T-shirt here. It's a free T-shirt I'm wearing that I will show you here. But let's talk about yes. There's another 1970 tune. And think about how the nation was divided then. The Vietnam War, the demonstrations, the Cambodia invasion, 4 students killed by the National Guard at Kent State. But in the summer of 1970, this man, John Gardner, founded Common Cause. John was a true Renaissance man, and I had the pleasure of meeting him actually about a year before he died. He was an author, an intellectual, a cabinet secretary for LBJ who quit. He quit over the Vietnam War, and then a few years later, he challenged the people to come together to push for a better democracy, united under the umbrella of people power, a movement called Common Cause. So 50 years ago, Common Cause started out as a national organization with about 4,000 members. Today, there are more than 1 million supporters and organizers in 35 states and 30,000 and growing supporters in North Carolina. We have just, like I said, over the past 50 years, we've had quite a few accomplishments to talk about. There on the upper left-hand corner, the 26th Amendment, the right to vote at age 18, which went in about 1972. To the right, well, that was the president of the day, Richard Nixon, and we Common Cause sued him over the campaign, over hiding campaign donations, I should say, and that was really the beginning of the campaign reform movement. And at the bottom of the screen is one of the many accomplishments, though, in those early days of Common Cause North Carolina. And Jerry Hancock, actually, who was on this call, I believe was the one who kind of told me about that. And that was, in the old days, you didn't even know how a lawmaker voted on a bill. And now we have these tally boards in both chambers where we can actually see in real time how folks are voting. And so that was a very important accomplishment in Common Cause North Carolina back in the 70s. In its early days, that was one of our great signature issues. But today, the signature issue has been, or I should say in the last 10 years, things that we've been working on since those early days include campaign finance reform. When I think about my time in Common Cause, I kind of group it in 2 segments. The first 10 years when we were accomplishing a lot of great things, and campaign finance reform was one of them. That slide on the, or I should say image on the left-hand side sort of speaks to that. North Carolina had the first judicial public financing in the country. And then we look at and think on the upper right-hand corner about the great voting rights initiatives that we were able to help bring in, which included early voting. And today we have a 17-day no excuse early voting period. Once upon a time, not so long ago, you could only vote on election day. Same day voter registration, pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds. These were all things that we were able to help bring about in the terms of improving voting rights in North Carolina, again, in the decade from 2000 to 2010. And last but not least, once upon a time, North Carolina was rated F, or I should say graded with an F for lobbying and ethics laws. And that sort of brought about the Coalition for Lobbying and Ethics Reform, which Jane Penske has been running for the last 12 years. And we were able to help get past the most comprehensive lobbying and ethics bill in the state had ever passed. And that was certainly great. And it included such things as a cooling off period before lawmakers can lobby. But an issue you may know us for really, and most recently, is ending gerrymandering. We had two landmark cases, Common Cause v. Rucho, which went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And unfortunately, we didn't get the kind of satisfactory outcome that we wanted there. But we were challenging the laws that we have, saying that partisan gerrymandering should be unconstitutional. And when we were not successful with the U.S. Supreme Court, about this time last year, we were getting ready for trial, which was our state landmark case, Common Cause v. Lewis. And as many of you all know, we were able to succeed. We prevailed. And the trial court there, the three-judge panel, ruled that indeed partisan gerrymandering is in fact unconstitutional to the North Carolina Constitution. So a lot of wonderful accomplishments, and yet I said those were kind of in the first 10 years, and the second 10 years, we kind of had to go into a defense mode because of the change in power. What happened in 2010 was that the Democrats lost power, the Republicans gained it. I say this in a very neutral, nonpartisan voice, but we saw things happening that weren't so good in our minds for democracy, where we unfortunately saw the legislature pass voter suppression laws. And Citizens United was passed around that time. And of course, the influx of dark money and our public financing program that we were so proud of, unfortunately got repealed as well. And then, of course, as we all know, we have always set the record for gerrymandering. We saw maybe this legislature that was elected in 2010 perhaps set new lows, if you will, on just how bad partisan gerrymandering can be, which was sort of the result of the trial. So clearly, when we look at what we are going to be doing both now and in the future, a lot of it has to do with, again, continuing to push for things like making laws, election laws, more accessible and easy for everyone, to address this dark money that we see from the super PACs. What we need is better disclosure, and certainly to continue to push for redistricting reform. Yes, we won our trial in Common Cause v. Lewis, but that didn't solve really the problem. What we have to have is the North Carolina General Assembly to actually pass comprehensive, meaningful redistricting reform so we can actually, once and for all, end gerrymandering. And I guess that is sort of where we are with our work. And what I want to do is highlight some of that. Again, most recently with the, some of you may know that there was a election law that was passed 2 weeks ago, and we were certainly part of that, pushing that through. And really two things that we had to address. And one, with this pandemic that we are all facing, it's how can we make voting from home, i.e. vote by mail, easier? And fortunately, this law does that, makes it a lot easier than what we had been able to do prior to that. 96% of the people in North Carolina vote in person. That was what happened in 2016. Only 4% actually cast an absentee ballot. But look where we are now, where we have this pandemic, and maybe making an in-person vote for some, and for many actually, might not be the best thing to do. In fact, election officials are predicting that 40% of the electorate, that's 2 million voters, might actually cast an absentee ballot. So making absentee, i.e. voting from your kitchen table, easier is a big part of this new law, something that we will be doing spending a lot of time educating voters on. The other thing that the law did was providing the money for when we do have in-person voting, which we will, for at the precincts to protect our poll workers and our voters. And you can see, I think this was actually a picture taken perhaps from Georgia, which had its primary election on June 9th. But we'll need to provide the protective equipment for the poll workers, and we'll also need to make sure that the voters have a mask that they can actually wear. So again, these are things that we will be working on to educate, and certainly we need your help. We certainly are very much grateful for the financial help that you provide. But if you also want to take another step and get involved and volunteer, there are plenty of things to do. And this is what you would see when you go to our webpage, commoncause.org or commoncauseinc.org, and then you can see a kind of a get involved, and you'll come to this page, and there at the left-hand bottom corner, there is a become an election protection volunteer. That's one of the things that we're going to be needing people to help us do. Monitor the polls at the precincts. And then we will be distributing the state's most comprehensive and largest nonpartisan voter guide. And that will have a lot of this information that I've talked about regarding how to vote an absentee ballot if your precinct is changing because it's going to a bigger space, who the candidates are, and also just kind of what the offices are as well. That kind of information will be in the voter guide. And we need people to help us distribute those guides, particularly in underserved communities in the state that not only need the information about when and where to vote, but particularly how to vote an absentee ballot if they choose to do so. So that kind of covers the accomplishments and some of the work that we will be doing, not only this coming balance of the year through the election, but into 2021. Of course, we have so many fine folks that are on the that have helped us over the years, I should say. And Larry King, who now has popped up on the screen, is someone that I want to introduce. Hey there, Larry. Larry actually predates my time at Common Cause. He is a board member, and we have kind of a contract that he's a board member for life. But Larry does so many things to help us, not only being very generous, helping with us financially, but so many activities he does, provides us with wonderful advice. Larry is a retired NC State professor. I don't know of anything Larry doesn't do. He's another true Renaissance man like John Gardner, many, many talents, including, as you can see, he has a guitar. He's a talented musician. And if you've come to some of our Common Cause events, you probably have heard Larry and his band. I think, Larry, it's just you. Larry, tell us where you are coming from and why you have been a member of Common Cause. And then I understand you're going to play a little music for us. But where are you right now tonight, Larry? And tell us why you've been a member of Common Cause all these years.
King Sky Ranch, which is located in the mountains of northeast Georgia. It's a family place that we've had since 1959. It's an airport that my dad built in 1959. And we have a house. The bottom floor is a hangar and the second floor is a living area. So that's where, in fact, my sister's here with me today and my lady friend Susan Hammer is here. So that's where we're coming from. And I guess I'm kind of like John Gardner. I felt like everybody's organized with the people. And I saw Common Cause as a way to organize the people. So I joined in.
Well, I know, as I mentioned, one of your talents that you learned from when you were growing up in the Peach State was learning how to play a guitar, and we've had the pleasure of listening to you many times. So what are you going to play for us? And go right to it. I'll let you take it away here.
Okay. When I was asked to play, I asked Susan to look over my repertoire and suggest something to play. And she said, well, do something sweet. So I'm going to try to do a sweet song, and it's called Roses in the Snow. I met my darling in the springtime when all flowers were in bloom. And like the flowers our love blossomed, we married in the month of June. Our love was like a burning ember. It warmed us as the cold winds blow. We had sunshine in December and grew our roses in the snow. Now God has taken my darling, left me with a memory. One memory I will always cherish are these last words she said to me. Our love was like a burning ember. It warmed us as the cold winds blow. We had sunshine in December and grew our roses in the snow. My darling's buried on the hillside where all the wild spring flowers grow. And when the winter snows start falling, on the grave I place a rose. Our love was like a burning ember. It warmed us as the cold winds blow. We had sunshine in December and grew our roses in the snow. Thank you.
Larry, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Stay safe, my friend, and Georgia. I look forward to seeing you and Susan sometime. We don't know when, but thank you again for all you do for Common Cause North Carolina.
You're welcome.
All right. Again, thank you again, Larry. Now I'm going to bring up one of my colleagues that you very briefly met, Michael Spencer, who, there he is. Michael, you have, I've got to say, I mean, that is quite the shirt you've got on. I mean, can you tell me something about it before I actually turn it over to you?
Black is my favorite color, and so I felt like it worked out.
I like it. I have not seen you adorn that. Yes, okay, we see a little more of it. I haven't seen you actually wear that to work, but very nice, very nice. Well, Michael, one of the things that I'm really proud of, Common Cause North Carolina, is what we started 15 years ago when you were probably in grade school or so. But, we were doing college outreach, and I kind of recognized that maybe my alma mater, UNC Chapel Hill, wasn't really where Common Cause needed to be to boost civic engagement, try to help young people understand that participating in democracy is a good thing, even when it's not just a presidential election year. So we've had this outreach to HBCUs. Gosh, it started with only 3 campuses, I think, that we had the ability to actually to work and one organizer. But now you're here and you've kind of stepped in. It was bigger than what I've just described when you came in. But what I want you to do is tell us a little bit about what it is you do and a little bit more about this very special program, which I'll say kind of boastfully kind of differentiates Common Cause from a lot of our other allies. So Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here with you all this evening. My name is Michael Spencer, as Bob mentioned. I have the pleasure of serving as the College Outreach Program Manager for Common Cause NC, which means that I get to work with a host of fantastic students that are passionate, active, creative, curious individuals. And one of those brilliant young people that I would love to introduce to you right now is with us tonight. Her name is Love Caesar. Love is a former democracy fellow with Common Cause. And before I go into my spiel about what we do and what our program is and where it's moving forward to, I wanted to give Love an opportunity to talk about kind of her experience and her time with the fellowship. So Love, thank you for joining us tonight. And if you want to just take a few moments to talk about what you've been up to, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. So, hey, everybody. Like Michael said, my name is Love Caesar. I have been working with Common Cause in some capacity or another for the past 3 years. I recently graduated from North Carolina A&T State University this spring, and I started working with Common Cause as a fellow when I was a sophomore there. I got involved because I saw so many things were wrong. For one, my campus was being gerrymandered. It was split right down the middle. And this was kind of, one of my first steps into becoming civically engaged on a bigger scale. It was so important to me that I could get involved with Common Cause because there aren't many organizations that involve communities that normally are not in close proximity to power. For instance, HBCUs. And I really enjoyed that, Common Cause has given me a platform over the past few years for me, and they've given me resources and so many opportunities so that just I could gain, a better sense of professionalism, and I could grow on my personal life. So it's just such a dynamic change that I've been through as a result of working with Common Cause. And even like outside of our work with gerrymandering and combating that, going to DC trips, fellowship retreats, just getting to know all the other fellows, making new friendships and forming all these connections. It's an experience that it can't be matched by anything else, and you can't really put a price on it. It's these experiences and these memories that are going to stick with me for the rest of my life. I wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't been affiliated or given this opportunity with Common Cause. And I am just really grateful going forward because I've gained just an array of skills, an array of just like empowerment. I've gotten empowerment. I feel like I'm smarter, more professional, ready to do anything I want to do. And Common Cause has just provided that platform. I served this past semester as the census fellow at A&T, and that just was icing on the cakes for me to exit strongly, exit on top, and it was really awesome. So I'm just like to conclude, working with Common Cause these past few years has been just a great experience, and I'm very grateful. Like moving forward, I plan to attend North Carolina Central in the fall to get my master's degree, and if not for Common Cause, I would not be going there for, to focus on civic engagement, to focus on community outreach, and just the many different aspects of community building that I've gotten involved with as a result. So I just want to, in closing, give a final thank you to everybody that I've worked with, from Bob and Michael to Vashtai and Elisa, and everybody who's, imparted and instilled all these great things in me. This has been like the journey of a lifetime, to be honest. And I would really just love to work with Common Cause more in the future. It's amazing. And if I can help out in any way going forward, I would be so happy to do so. So yeah, I'll pass it back to you, Michael.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. I'm also going to pre-apologize, everyone. I've been having some internet connectivity issues today, so hopefully everything works out well. So as Bob and Love talked about, the Common Cause HBCU Student Action Alliance has been around for about a decade and a half at this point, around 50 years. During this time, our students have done fantastic work, from advocating for polling locations on their campuses to fighting against gerrymandering, to educating their peers about voting, to teaching them about the importance of the census, and also reaching out into the communities to do direct service and work to empower communities and get them out to vote. This year presented a host of complicated challenges for our program, and also a few really amazing opportunities. I'll start with the opportunities first. This year we had a presidential primary election that took place on Super Tuesday. Normally North Carolina's primary election happens in the summer. So this provided us a unique and new opportunity to engage our students in the presidential process in the spring, to get them out to vote in the primary, to get them activated and ready and fired up and ready to go. So this spring, our students hosted marches to the poll at each of our campuses. They did education events, they did voter registration and community outreach. And then as we were getting ready to transition to census outreach, as you all know, COVID-19 happened and the world kind of went on pause for a little bit. But in true Common Cause fashion, our students were able to be nimble and bounce back, and our program was nimble and it bounced back as well. Our students hosted webinars to continue teaching their peers about why getting out the count and why communities matter. Our students did social media pushes, research, outreach via email, you name it. Our students were there, they were activated, and were ready to get the work done. I think the beauty of our program is that our students are activated and excited about doing this work, but in addition to that, they approach this work from a very holistic and justice-oriented lens. This means that our students take the opportunities that we provide them and utilize them to do things that are aligned with their personal passions. We had students this year that recognized that gender equality was one of those things to them, and so they wanted to do programming around that. We had students that realized that criminal justice reform needed to happen and desperately needed to take place so that more Black and brown bodies could be able to vote in this fall. So we had students that did programming around that. We also had students that were deeply passionate about the LGBTQIA community, and so they did work around that. So I think that as we transition into the fall, we're uniquely positioned to be able to continue to build upon the amazing foundation that we've kind of started this spring, recognizing that COVID-19 is going to be a thing and is going to create some complications and some challenges, also recognizing that our students are passionate, they're ready, they're activated, and they're engaged, and they're going to take this work to the rest of their communities. So I thank you for this time to talk about my program. I thank you for this time of supporting Common Cause during our 50th anniversary. Before I wrap up, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the amazing work of my two colleagues that are also on this call, and another colleague who's not with us tonight, Vashtai Hinton Smith, Trey Gibson, and Lisa Canty. All of the work that happens out of this program could not take place if it wasn't for these amazing women that are supporting our students, that are working diligently to make sure that our Black and brown communities are getting out the vote. So thank you to the three of you, and thank you to everyone for participating this evening. And now, I believe, if my schedule is correct, that I'm turning it over to our wonderful Cameron. Cameron Bond is my colleague who I haven't been able to see in person in a few months, and that deeply saddens me. But Cameron is more than a colleague, she's also a friend, and I'm excited for her to talk to you about the amazing things that she's been doing and also play a trivia game with you. So I will see you all later, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate that send over, and also really sorry that we don't get to see each other anymore. We used to share an office, and I miss that. So I am here to do a trivia game. As Michael said, I am the development coordinator here. I began back in January 1st, or January 20th, which means I've officially spent more time in quarantine at this job than out of quarantine, but I've been really excited getting to know the staff and, getting to know these people. I know that Common Cause does amazing work, and I've been really, touched by getting to know a lot of you on the call as well by helping coordinate you all to get here. And so, all of that being said, I'm excited to break up the program a little bit with a little bit of fun, and so I'm going to be turning it over to a trivia game. I believe that Brent will be putting the first question into the thing first. This one is a little bit of a toughie. We want to start hard and then get a bit easier as time goes on. And so if you know this off the top of your head, that's great. I'm sure everybody knows just how many James we've had in the 20th century as a governor. I know I easily answered this question. You can ask Brent. He can say that, I aced this quiz perfectly. And so I think some of you will as well. All right. Let's see. I think the votes are being tallied. Really excited to see what our answers are. Really just like look into yourself and see what you think might be the best answer. James is a very popular name, so it's hard to know which is which. But you also, if you can bring in a little insight with the history, you might know that governors can only serve for so many years, and so that might help. I see that 16 is reigning, and I'm so sorry for anybody who voted for 16, but unfortunately the number is 28, which means in the 20th century, about a quarter of that century was spent under governors named James. And so spectacular, amazing. Second question, Brent, will you put it up in the chat for me? All right. State beverage. I had to have a conversation with Brent about this question because my favorite state beverage is not in the multiple choice. And so I think that this question might be flawed and you might not be able to get the right answer because chair wine is obviously the right answer, but this is like the second official beverage, the next best thing. And so just think about your history of North Carolina. There are a lot of things that might give you some clues. And so you might be a Southerner and think that sweet tea is as natural to Carolina as anything else. Or you might be one of those astute people that know that Pepsi was actually born in New Bern, North Carolina. Or you might think that we have tricked you all and it's one of the other few answers. I know that the craft beer industry is really up and running here in North Carolina. And so it could be any of these. And I'm excited to see what you all think in the chat. Sweet tea. Yes. So that is what you would think. I know that, you know, as a good Southerner myself, I love myself a sweet tea. But in fact, you wouldn't know this, but the answer is milk. Yes. I didn't make it. I think that, you know, Pepsi or sweet tea or any of the other options were a little bit better, but you know, that is what the lawmakers decided back in the day when they decided the official beverage of North Carolina. And so I'm going to go with it. And so I have 2 trivia questions now and then 2 trivia questions later. And so I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Trey, who is our new Charlotte organizer. I was really excited to start working with Trey because at first I was wondering if I'd ever get to know them because they're remote and in Charlotte. But as quarantine has happened, we've got got to speak to each other a lot more, and I've really appreciated their voice in the calls. And so that being said, let's turn it over to Trey.
Thank you, Cameron, for the introduction. My name is Trey Gibson, and I'm really happy to be a part of the celebration tonight. It is a very exciting time to be working here at Common Cause, North Carolina. And although I did join the team right at the start of the current health crisis, I've still been able to make a lot of connections here in Mecklenburg County ahead of what will be an extremely important election season. So keeping with the trivia theme of the evening, I have a little fun fact for you all. My role as civic engagement organizer is the first time that Common Cause North Carolina has had a dedicated staff presence here in Charlotte, although we do have about 2,700 members here in the Queen City. And so with that being said, here in Charlotte, I've been working to spread our mission and our work throughout the region, and especially making sure that historically disenfranchised groups such as Black and Brown people can vote and participate in democracy without barriers. Like the rest of the state and the rest of the country, here in Charlotte, we've been dealing with issues of police brutality and systemic racism, and Black and Brown people have been leading the call to city leaders to defund the police and reallocate funding to other areas. And after an incident earlier this month involving police tear gassing protesters, we at Common Cause North Carolina created a petition for city leaders to hold CNPD accountable. And we then delivered that petition to the mayor and chief of police as well. And it's been just a very exciting to see so many people engaging in local government and showing up to local meetings and reaching out to city leaders to hold them accountable, especially when those officials say that Black Lives Matter. And a lot of the groups in Charlotte who have been organizing marches and leading demonstrations are going to be crucial in our efforts moving forward to provide nonpartisan voter education for Black and Brown people this year. And so I'm really looking forward to planning events and opportunities for people to learn about our mission and understand the changes to the election process so that their voices can be heard. I've also been working with administration at Johnson C. Smith University to make sure that students have access to important information as well. And we will have 2 democracy fellows from JCSU working with us to broaden the reach of the HBCU Student Action Alliance moving forward as well. So it's been a very eventful few months, and looking ahead, I'm just looking forward to getting out again and meeting with people in person and just working to continue working with our members to live up to the ideals of democracy and government. So thank you all for giving me the chance to speak about what's been happening in Charlotte, and thanks for all of your support. And I think now I'm kicking it off back to Cameron.
Thank you so much, Trey. I really appreciate it. And so we are back into the trivia round. I hope you were all excited to answer a few more questions. I think Brent should be pulling it up right now. So we have had plenty of presidents from North Carolina, but we've only had 1 president from Raleigh. And so give your answers here in the poll. See which ones you think that they are. I know that there's some hints you can think if you can, remember back to either some civics classes or some lived experiences, depending, on the mean age of this call. But yeah, so definitely answer to your best ability. This is not a trick question. We're not trying to, challenge anybody. This is pretty easy. Perfect. Y'all got it exactly right. Yes, Andrew Johnson, born in Raleigh, sorry, and also in North Carolina. All right, one final trivia question for you all here today, and this one is really relevant to the history of Common Cause because we were forefront in the fight for giving 18-year-olds the right to vote, and so answer to your best ability, it has happened, within some period of time that I won't allude to because I don't want to give any information away. But I feel like I might have already had by telling you that we said that we are crucial in this fight. And so, that might help you answer this question. But if it doesn't, answer to your best of the abilities. It's been it was a really important battle. And look at that. It seems like we were able to get it. Yes, 1971 was the right answer. So you all did a great job. Yeah, thank you so much for your work. And so that is all the trivia questions I have for you now. I have nothing more to share with you. And so I'm going to turn it back over to our very gracious host, Mr. Bob Phillips.
Gracious host, that's a nice compliment. You're paying me, Cameron. I don't know too. I have to say that I missed one of those questions. I kind of thought 16 years was the rule of Jim or James in North Carolina. But anyway, maybe I need to kind of go back and look at my history books here. I know that we had talked about questions, and I think the chat box has had a lot of chatter, but maybe, and I'm going to talk to my colleague, Brent Lawrence. Brent, are you telling me we have had 0 questions? Could that be possible?
I think you've covered things so comprehensively that folks have no questions in the Q&A box. It's still open for anybody that would like to ask a question. But I'll ask a question for you, Bob, that I've been curious about.
Okay.
Voting from home this fall. If folks wanted to request an absentee ballot, how does that process work?
Well, it used to be where you had to download literally a paper form, fill it out, and then stick it in an envelope and put a stamp on it and mail it. The new law that we just had passed actually now lets you do it from your phone. You can actually, not with a phone call, but from a computer, you can go online. The State Board of Elections will have an electronic online portal where you can then make your request and then have your absentee ballot sent to you. And I will say to everybody on the call, you can make that request now. The ballots, you can make the request now, and then you'll get them around Labor Day. I think September 4th is maybe when the absentee ballots will be sent. Brent, that's a very fine question. I guess do we have any?
We got a couple coming in now. So okay. Another great question was, when will the voter guide be distributed, and how, and will it be mailed to some?
Brent, you and Brian are working on that. I might just say, why don't you answer that?
Yeah, so the voter guide will be mailed to close to 1 million voters or households with registered voters in them in October, most likely. We will also have it live online at ncvoterguide.org, where voters can come in and plug in their address, get a customized ballot, and see what candidates had to say to some issue questions and things like that. That will be live October-ish as well. And that usually gets several 100,000 visitors as well. So all told, we'll spread and have a long reach with the voter guide this year. Another question on here that is a great question is the status of redistricting reform legislation, and will it pass in July?
There are bills pending, about a half dozen filed last year, and none were unfortunately ever even brought up for a committee vote. Technically, the legislature could still bring up a redistricting reform bill in this current session, what they call the short session. And because of the pandemic and the tax collections now being delayed until July 15th, lawmakers I think they might be adjourning tomorrow, if not today, for a bit of a pause, but they'll come back in August. There is a slight chance, I guess, that they could take up a reform bill. Would it be and have everything that we want in it? I would say probably not. But we're still going to be there. One of the hats I wear is I'm a lobbyist, as is Jane Penske, and we will certainly be remotely, or Jane goes to the building in person. I really have chosen not to, but we can still do our jobs and lobby, and we'll be watching and monitoring. But kind of a long answer, I don't think, if I'm a betting person, I kind of don't think we'll see anything meaningful passed this year. But we have to have it, and we'll certainly have an opportunity come January 2021 with a new legislature, a legislature that, and I say this again in a nonpartisan tone, but a legislature that it could be a shift in power in one or two chambers, who knows? Anyway, good question.
We might have time for at least one more, Bob, if you're game for it.
Indeed, and I've got a question for you too, but if you have a great question back to me, that's great.
Well, somebody wanted to know about the online method of requesting an absentee ballot and if that was ready yet, or when we could expect that to be ready.
I don't believe it is ready yet. The legislature, in passing the bill, had to also allocate several $100,000 for probably a vendor that will be setting that up. It would be nice if it was ready. I don't believe that it actually is, which of course they are racing to get it set. If you couldn't, when you go to the State Board of Elections site, when I was checking it yesterday, I didn't see that it was actually ready. But you could still download, even though it's the old-fashioned way, and do it where you download the form, fill it out, and then send it in. But well before September 4th, I haven't heard of a date, but I'm sure they will have it up. So I think that's kind of where things are right now. But Brent, I have a question for you, and I think it's very important because there could be some confusion out there. In 2018, the people of North Carolina, with about a 55% majority, did pass and put into our Constitution the requirement to show an ID to get a ballot, voter ID. Just so most people on the call, if you don't know, we fought it. We were not for a voter ID. We have long opposed voter ID, but it is the law. It's in our Constitution. So is it accurate to say that yes, in voting this year, you will have to show an ID? Is that true or false?
That's false, Bob.
Oh, okay. Tell us why.
Thanks to some of our great partners and allies in the state that challenged the voter ID provision under both federal and state court. They are under preliminary injunctions and as of now are not in place for this fall election. So vote, unless barring some minor circumstances, voters will not be required to show a photo ID to vote in the 2020 election.
Very good, and that's very important. No ID required this election. So thank you for that answer, Brent. You were accurate, and that's one of the other messages that we'll certainly be conveying to everybody. in this election cycle. So Brent, I see the time is 7:54. You're the executive producer of this lovely hour. And so I'm assuming you're telling me to maybe shift to the next brief segment. We're almost through here, folks, those of you who are still with us. So I'm going to call upon three of our board members that we appreciate so much. Dennis, I'm going to turn it over to you and Mem and Alan, and I really want you all just take maybe a few sentences each to say why you are a part of Common Cause North Carolina.
So my name is Alan Buensey, and I'm a proud member of the board for Common Cause North Carolina. I'm relatively new, been on the board for a little bit less than a year now, but big reason why I'm a part of Common Cause is of my own inspiration as a teenager for fair and equitable elections. Common Cause is committed and dedicated to good governance and to making sure that everyone has a vote and a voice in our government. So I'm all in on Common Cause.
Thank you, Alan. So I'm Dennis Burns, and I met Bob 15 years ago, got involved in Common Cause fighting for better voting machines, and I'm still very committed, and this year is just as important in terms of voting. Delighted to see lots of the friends of Common Cause when we all showed up and had our toast. So we appreciate the support, and this is going to be a really, really important year for the work that we do. I'll turn it over to Mim.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I'll be brief, but just want to say that I am a supporter and a board member at Common Cause because I have been, in some ways, and I'm sure we all have been personally affected by gerrymandering, working for a member of Congress who lost and has had that district gerrymandered. I knew that I was passionate about that topic, and when I moved back from DC, Common Cause was the first organization that I got involved in because I knew I wanted to make a difference in North Carolina. So I'm excited for the next 50 years because, as Bob mentioned, there's still work to be done for redistricting reform. We have so much amazing work that we're doing with our HBCU programs that we can continue to expand on. And as we've seen all across the country, our voter rights and access work is so important. And we have to be vigilant and continue working in that area. So thank you all for joining. I'm a proud supporter and advocate for Common Cause.
Mem and Alan and Dennis, thank you so much. You are helping us greatly, and we can't thank you enough for your support of Common Cause North Carolina. So 7:58, and we are winding down. Now, we do have a surprise, so don't leave yet. But I do want to kind of close with you know, what we have often said, even when I was at Common Cause in those early days when I was younger, and we would always say, we're as relevant today as we were when we were founded way back in 1970. And while those words meant something to me, they mean more today when we think about the moment we're in right now, which is extraordinary. And what I mean by that is just this call rightness, this moment for racial justice in this country. And those of us who have a few years, you know, we remember the civil rights movement and we remember 1968 as kind of pivotal times. But I got to tell you, this feels different to me, a time where I really do feel like there's an opportunity to have some real positive things happen in this country as we are kind of reckoning with our past. And you think about then Common Cause and how is it that we might have a connection to that? Well, when you think about the core work that we do, ending and standing in the way of voter suppression, when we can stop voter suppression, then we are doing a lot to dismantle systemic racism. And then one of the big issues that has been mentioned a lot in the last hour, and certainly an issue that you know us for, is the effort for fair maps, for stopping the splitting, the cracking, the diluting of African American voters particularly. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, gerrymandering was to really dilute the Black vote across this country. So when we can end gerrymandering once and for all, again, we are doing a lot to dismantle systemic racism. And the same thing for so many of the other issues, curbing the influence of big money politics, getting more sunshine in on the process. All of these things in our wonderful democracy, what it is, unfortunately, it's tainting in a lot of ways who we are, and that is what Common Cause was founded on, and those things that we've been working on all these years certainly have been relevant in the past. And again, I think they are, to use that saying, as relevant then and as relevant today as they were in the past. So hope you think about that. And as you know how to get up with us. We welcome any kind of input that you have, any kind of questions that you have regarding the work we do. Again, before we close, I want to thank everyone on the call. I want to thank all of the 30,000 allies and supporters across North Carolina that support Common Cause. And then I want to thank the sponsors, the many sponsors we had tonight. Here are some of them, and you see, gosh, I see a lot of names there. And you may see a Phillips on that second column. Well, that's my mom. She gave, and thanks, Mom, for giving and supporting us. Then we have our special top sponsors, folks who gave $1,000 and more. And again, appreciate so much all our sponsors, particularly people who gave at our top sponsor level. Again, some of you all, we put this out a couple days ago, but a friend of ours from California who grew up in the great state of Mecklenburg, Charlotte, but a very successful California businessman, and has been a supporter of North Carolina Common Cause all these years, is matching all of the gifts tonight. And in fact, he's going to match up to $25,000 that we might raise between now and the end of the fiscal year, which I guess is coming up next Tuesday, I believe. That's June 30th. So, excuse me, as I cough here, sorry. Couple things. I know there was a wager that the staff kind of wagered to me to say that if we could raise $15,000, that I would agree to have a pie in the face. With all these great sponsors and all the great work we do, I'm sorry to report, as I'm looking here at Brent, I think you've just sent me this piece of paper. We came close. What we did is we got to $14,999.99. So we didn't quite get. Are you kidding me?
That's not
It's
true.
good. It is good.
Fantastic.
Michael, why did this happen? Did you have anything to do with that? What happened here?
Well, I didn't personally, but you all did. We actually raised $18,118. So thank you everyone for your support.
Michael, I'm going to get cleaned up. I'm going to turn it over to you now, but thank you, folks. That's great.
All right, everyone. So, hi, thank you for sticking with us and thank you for participating this evening. I have the honor of being able to introduce our performer tonight. He is someone that I deeply care about. He just happens to be my brother, and he's going to give you a rendition of one of our favorite spirituals. So I hope that you all have a wonderful evening, and here we go, Devon Tynes.
Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicings rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sing. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have knocked our weary feet, come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the bright gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, O God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our name.